Hey, soul survivors, I have a video that is probably different than any video that you've ever talked about. We're going to talk about method acting, narcissism, how staying in a toxic relationship can affect us, the things that we absorb, also stuttering, all these things that affect our brain and can be results of being exposed to certain things. Our brain is neuroplastic, which means that it can change. So method acting is where you dive into this role where you actually live the life of this character. You take on their habits, their emotions, their mannerisms, and it can change how people are just from the exposure and living out this persona. So the narcissist, they will live out this persona. And we're also going to talk about how that changes where they become entitled. They had the uh, problems in their brain where they're missing the parts of their amygdala, the connections to give them empathy. So the way that they choose their words, they don't relate them from an empathetic aspect. So they could say something like, it'd be great if you could be like my ex who always mowed the lawn. That'd be fantastic. And it just because of that, the way they said it makes you feel like you're not good enough. They could say something like, hey, I'll do the dishes and, do you mind doing the lawn? And that isn't comparing you to somebody else. Your self-worth isn't based on the other person. So it's fine to want somebody to do the lawn, make your chores list. But when you start comparing, that starts cutting people down. So it can be something as simple as that. Like, hey, when I was in my other relationship, my ex-husband always did the lawn. Can you do that? Just little things like that. It can be subtle. And over the years, it'll build up and it'll start tearing you down. So Val Kilmer he played in The Doors. He acted as Jim Morrison, and that was back on 1991, one of Oliver Stone's movies. And he went really deep into Jim's character, and people will call him that. And throughout this, he became in his mind almost Jim Morrison, and he had to go to therapy to get Jim out of his system. And excuse me, Colin Firth, he ended up getting a stutter. He was playing the future king of England, George the Sixth, and in this film, he had to give numerous speeches along with doing the other royal duties. But he wanted to give a flawless speech, and so he studied how to stutter. And I looked up stuttering. I'm also previous nursing student, but the stutter affects a portion of the brain that deals with the muscular movement. So as you know, with speech, you're using different muscles and things can atrophy. So the brain is affected by that, learning to do certain things. There's adaptations that happen. And even to this day, he still has a stutter. He wasn't able to overcome that, which is pretty interesting. Just little changes like that. There's other people, like Bob Hoskins, who framed Roger Rabbit. So he had to visualize Jessica Rabbit and these characters. He could hear the voices, so he could do his part in the movie, but he's visualizing. He's getting so deep into it that he actually caused himself to start hallucinating. And our brains try to fill in pieces that aren't there. So like with the narcissist, when they're talking to us, they don't connect things with the emotion so it doesn't stick into their brain. So when they are trying to talk to us about things that have happened, a lot of times they will fill in that spot as either a false reality that they believe is a truth, or they just fill it in. It's a coping mechanism, just like when when Bob Hoskins was acting, his brain is thinking there's supposed to be somebody there. I hear voices, and we expect to see things. So the narcissist has to fill in those blanks sometimes. And that's why it gets really confusing. Like, what are you talking about? Other times, too, they purposely lie. It's a manipulation tactic. But just like, asking to mow the lawn, saying, comparing it to your ex-husband or something. It's that they want the outcome, but the way they do it is underhanded. And sometimes they realize it, sometimes they don't. It's really confusing on how their mind works. A lot of it is communication problems, and their communication problems are due to that lack of empathy. They don't foresee what bringing the ex-husband or things like that into it will do to somebody. You got Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, and he did a great job, but he put himself into strict isolation. Isolation can cause things to go through the brain. And, he had these images of this realm of the psychopath. And even when he wasn't on set, he was struggling to shake the persona of the Joker. And plus, too, he had sleep deprivation, probably 2 hours a night. And he also ended up doing painkillers and sedatives that took his life. When we get uncomfortable in our brain, or we feel dissociated, or we're living somebody else's life, we're not living our authentic self. And that can wreak havoc, confusion, uncomfortable. There's some other actors that, like, some of these are people who took on addictions, which makes sense that they're, smoking or whatever. But Uma Thurman in Kill Bill films, she was affected by her method acting. She ended up being pushed into doing her own stunts that led to a life-threatening car crash. So trauma can cause problems, and then seeing things in a different angle. I know I watched La Bamba. I thought it was a false. I thought it was just a story. I didn't know who Richie Valens was. Once I learned that it was a true story, I felt like a jerk for not crying. I couldn't shake that feeling for hours. I ended up crying at the end when I realized it was real. So perception makes a difference in how we process our emotions. Kyle Richards from Halloween, once seeing the film afterwards, gave her a different perspective on how traumatic certain things were. And when people live a different life, they're not living their authentic life. So with the narcissist, it seems great in the beginning, but over time, it starts to build up with them. You got Margot Robbie, who played Tanya Harding in I, Tanya, and she ended up like becoming so much like Tanya, who was in an abusive relationship with her husband. And Margot started, even when the cameras were off, running through the streets, and she thought her hand was broken. She's screaming and it wasn't broken. And she is just running down the street, screaming at each other and running after these people, people who have had, from The Shining, Thompson, where she was, trying to beat with a baseball bat. It was traumatic to her that she had to go to therapy after that. Living somebody else's life and absorbing that will traumatize you. Being around people that are toxic can traumatize you. Jodie Foster in her Silence of the Lamb, with Hannibal Lecter, she was terrified of him. The actor, that she couldn't even be around the person. That our bodies start, with our brain, we feel that energy. Granted, that was acting energy, but you feel that energy. It's your body telling you to be cautious. So our narcissist gives us some negative energy that we start absorbing, and we start going into, just like Jodie Foster did, we go into a defense mode that something doesn't feel right. And our narcissist is is in the beginning acting to where we feel safe, and then when their true colors come, that our brain goes into defense mode, and we don't know exactly, just like, you know, which the right person is. Should we be afraid of them? Should we be comfortable around them? And over time, these little jabs that we get start breaking down our comfort level, that it starts to feel off. We start to see red flags. We try to talk to the narcissist. They don't communicate the right way. So whether it's false memories that they have, or the gaslighting, or the straight up lies, that we don't know what to act. Just like Jodie Foster, she got so into it that what's reality? And we don't have the information to know what reality is. So our brains are starting to be damaged by the overload of adrenaline that we go through, the stress and anxiety, the depression, that it's starting to atrophy our brain. Our brain is going into defense mode. It's kind of just like I said, how I'm a burn victim. I don't remember that. That I will never be able to remember. I remember walking up to the barbecue. All of a sudden, I'm in the front yard in a pink and white towel. My brain does not want to know. Somehow it, I don't know how it did it, but it disconnected. And I have no memory of it. And our brain protects us. So when we are in that heightened adrenaline state, that's our brain saying, get out of here. It's not right. So, you know, if somebody's yelling at you and it calms down, the brain is okay. But when it's repeated over and over, and the narcissist being our savior, or we have no control and we're like, we can't talk this way, that we don't have the control of our surroundings, because people might yell and it's like, hey, we need to talk quieter, or we can talk when we can communicate the right way. We have no control over this relationship. And, you know, not that we need to control it, but we need to compromise. And it needs to be safe. When it's a loving relationship, you know, safety is what's important. And it comes naturally when you're like, look, this is making me real uncomfortable, that the person would naturally love you enough to settle it down, or at least say, what do you mean? And you know, but the narcissist will blame shift, they'll deflect. Anytime you're trying to say, I don't feel safe, they are telling you, sorry about your luck. And, you know, we start living in this uncomfortable state, and it gets to the point where we feel like there's no way out, but we love this person. We're dedicated to them. We feel that we can get back to what it was, but without the respect, without empathy, there's no love. And, you know, it's a sad truth that these narcissists have these cycles. They go through cycles of boredom. You know, with my YouTube channel, it's interesting how, you know, they tell you, I don't do it yet, but where every 7 seconds you have like a little clip that says watch here, subscribe, or give you a list of what I'm talking about, the different characters. Maybe I put Jodie Foster's picture up here. They tell you to do it every 7 seconds. Otherwise, people get bored, or they might log off, or it trains them to read to stay on your channel longer. That every 7 seconds, that is not a long attention span for me to have to entertain you for every 7 seconds, which I'm going to try to do. But the narcissist gets bored. They take advantage of what they have, and they don't appreciate it. They see people as depreciable. I don't know. Did I just invent another word? I think I'm at like 12 new words, where we depreciate in their mind, because they're looking for flaws. And we look at things as we're looking for the good, which builds up the relationship. We become thankful for what we have. But when they look for flaws, over time, of course, you're going to see more and more flaws. And they'll see outside temptations, and they start feeling that they're entitled to that, and they start getting jealous of other people. It's just a toxic cycle, and it's just a perception. And I just found it very interesting how the brain can confuse us sometimes. We can get confused on what is love. Ultimate love making is not love. And sometimes too with the tender cuddles, sometimes somebody just wants to spend a few moments with us. That doesn't mean they love us. And there has to be the investment. And sometimes with the narcissist, we think they're investing in us, taking us out to dinner, or going for a walk is time together, but are they investing in who we are? Who we are? Are they getting to know us? Do they even care about us? Do they want to hear what we have to say? And the society is getting more and more narcissistic. I'm a little scared as a school teacher, some of the things that we're doing, where we are kind of trying to train them to have accountabilities, but these children are so young that I don't know. There's problems coming, is all I'm going to say right now. But take care of your brain, and the increase level of adrenaline is damaging you. What I want to say is how these method actors got into this role, almost stuck them in this role. I want you to take note of this, that if you can live in the positive mindset, your mind will take on the positive mindset, where you take on the I am worth it. I will set my boundaries. I will this, I will that, I will achieve this. I'm happy. I am happy. And you live that life, you take on almost like that method acting of I'm going to make my life happy. You can do it. But it is a mind change, just like the actors have to change their mind to be Jim Morrison or whoever they're going to play. They change their mind. And, I don't want to say live as a character, but live as an emotion. Live as an emotion. I am love. I am happy. And I am strong. I have self-esteem. And when you put yourself in that method acting of your life, that's the character you become. And you were happy. So that is the genuine you. You're just trying to find a way back. So I hope that was helpful. And share this if it helps anybody else that that might be struggling. Please like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.